Hello, this is John Speelman with the video version of my latest chess base column, my now monthly chess base column, which I believe is number 214. And we'll go and check that. It does say so, doesn't it? And obviously, really, there's nothing else to write about but the Toronto candidates. So I've written what I thought was, well, whatever I write is going to be out of date within minutes of me writing it. So what I do is write an introduction before it started and then do a little diary day by day of my impressions of what was going on. And then I've given one game from the previous candidates tournament. I had a choice. There was either, I thought Ding against Nepomniachtchi from round one, or Ding against Nakamura from the final round. That was, of course, the tournament that ended with Nepo ahead of Ding, and because Magnus Carlsen abdicated his crown, the World Championship match which Ding won last year. And so I've got, in fact, the round one game, and then I've got some moments from here. Obviously, these games have been annotated in detail all over the place, but I thought I could say something about them, which might be a bit different from what other people are saying. I think it's important to realise that the absolute truth about these games is all very splendid, but they're played at the board between human beings, and the flow of the game is pretty important, really. And what I've noticed is first that they're really beating each other up, these guys, or they certainly were for the first two rounds. Though already by round three they'd slackened off a bit. I have no idea. I assume this will come out sometime on Sunday evening. I could have waited till Monday morning, but I thought, why not just get it out there? And so I've got three of the games from Toronto, annotated not particularly heavily, just talking about the bits that I think are important. And there's all this fighting, and there are some fantastic opening preparation, actually, already. So let's just go to them. I mean, you can read my comments, which go on quite a bit. I was impressed by Vidit after two rounds. Obviously, he lost to Prague in round three, but I mean, who knows? Very hard to tell what's going to happen. A priori, I thought that maybe Caruana and Nepo were the two favourites. I know other people have said, oh, Nepo's a bit out of form, but this is his tournament, the one he performs really well in. I used to play, Yevgeny Bareev quite a lot, many, many years ago. And we used to have a fairly even score, except in Hastings, where he beat many bells out of me. So, there are places that people are very comfortable. And the candidates tournament, I think, generically is one where Nepo is. So we'll see what he does. Anyway, off we go. I've got these three games. That's the list of the games. Here they are. They're in chess base in this file, column 214. And we start with round one. I guess we'll look at it from Nepo's point of view. Round one in Madrid 2022. Ding plays this line. And previously, in this line, Black gets decent development and space, that must say. Excuse me, I will even correct that. I'm not going to correct too much of this. Nowadays, I use dictation software, which actually is better, apart from the names, when it's a complete disaster. And potential attacking chances, use the e4 pawn, but that pawn is also something of a target for white. And we got some more moves. And I said, a novelty. Hans Mocker-Niemann. I actually said the American teenager in my original notes, because he hadn't become so famous and notorious at that stage. Had previously played c5 against Ding. and later won, but Ding obviously had an improvement. Ready, and we've got the game Ding against Neiman, whatever it was. So they played these moves, and now h4. Knight takes, bishop takes e4. Would be very similar to the previous note, says, and I've given some line also here of knight takes g4, bishop takes. Basically, black gets a lot of pressure for a pawn, but whether it's enough to have the advantage is another matter. What happened was h4 is pretty encouraging for black in the long term, because you do now have, I mean, if white can keep this position, then it's good for him, but you can feel that things might go very, very wrong here. Can't play bishop b4 because if bishop takes knight, pawn takes, and then you're going to have knight takes knight, aren't you? You can't take the bishop, but it's not going to be good when you've got such broken up pawns. There'll be some queen e5 move and queen takes g3. So I'm saying that if take you take, this is not good, is it? Take, you have to take with the d pawn. So you've got d8, knight takes, pawn takes, and probably as queen e5 is very good for white. It says queen g4 is even better actually. If queen e5, maybe there's rook f4, but queen g4, line over plus. Okay. Thing is, every time you look at a game, you see something else, or you should do if you're looking. So they played some moves, and now Ding's got pieces. The knight is moving gently towards g4. And here, actually, rook fd1 was played, but b5 was suggested by the engine, basically to deflect the knight from c7. It shows that position is quite critical. Apparently this is still okay after b5, is it? Too slow. He's basically hoping to be okay, and he's going to get kicked, isn't he? White doesn't. That's not a good move either. That just gives black more time. That shows very bad form, I think. But except, I suppose, what's the point? That if knight f6, is there some good move? Knight d6 or something. Pieces all starting to gravitate towards the king side, and basically Nepo was very much up to this. Knight e4 is a better chance, though after takes, check here. Takes, basically black should be winning this. Though I mean it's still a game. What happened was fairly horrible, I think. He wins the exchange, but obviously this attack is enormous. If king takes this, rook takes pawn with check and queen h2 mate, so f4, check here, takes, and bishop h3 check, exclam. Was the end of the game, because you have to take it or you get mated. Yeah, king f2, queen king h2, queen f1. And quietly here, and you are going to checkmate the opponent in a move or two. So, well, a big game that set the tone for the first half of that candidates tournament that Ding recovered in the second. So you must remember that this tournament is a marathon rather than a sprint if you're going to use those are rather crude analogies. Okay, so we've got Caruana Nakamura. And what did I want to say about this? These are my own notes to the game, and I haven't removed anything, so I might have some lines which others haven't highlighted. But really I want to concentrate on just 2 moments. Nakamura's opening choice and the critical play around move 22. So they played these moves, and Nakamura didn't play the Najdorf. I mean, you know, first he could have maybe played a dragon or knight c6, but obviously Caruana would have been tremendously well prepared. The Najdorf would be the obvious choice. By the way, he didn't play e4, e5, which is interesting, because they quite often just halve out when they play e4, e5. sort of online tournaments. But Caruana would have had some way to tickle Nakamura, fairly unpleasantly tickle, I don't know. Anyway, to get an edge. So Nakamura plays e5. And the question is, what do you think of this move? Well, it's probably not the best move in the position, is it? But it does limit White's options enormously. And that's already quite a big deal, I would say, that he's reducing the ability of Caruana to do something bad to him. Check is normal. And now there are two lines. There's bishop takes knight, queen takes, bishop g5, knight e4, takes, castles, queen d6, f6 apparently. And black has lost a pawn, but he has the two bishops and rather a wonderful position apart from that. Okay, he's lost the g-pawn, it's a shame. And this is not a position you'd want to play at all, really, as white. I mean, people do, and it's all right, and sometimes they win even. But you'd be very, very nervous against Nakamura, well prepared in this position. You wouldn't want to get involved. I can certainly see why Caruana didn't. So he played bishop a4. You take this. Apparently the best move. So now white's got white squares. And actually, queen d5, castles, knight e4, takes, check here, here, bishop e7. I suppose this is playable for black, but I think it's rather disgusting. Obviously, Nakamura will have analysed it and found a way to play it. I've said this is apparently better, but I'm not sure that's even true, actually. This position is also pretty... This is also fairly vile for white, for black. He's got weakened queenside pawns, and in the long term, white has a clear advantage. Okay, a clear, small but unpleasant advantage. I pointed out that these two guys had an opposite bishop game at the Grand Swiss in the Isle of Man last year. Nakamura was white in that and won a dark square against dark squared bishop, his dark squared bishop against Fabi's white squared bishop in a Scotch. So, you know, these positions of the opposite bishops, they're not at all harmless. That's a nice move to eliminate a lot of the problems. You take it. Obviously, you just have to give it back immediately. Now black's hobbled white's queenside quite a lot. But white has the initiative. Went queen b7. I think if rook d1, rook c5 is a good move. Queen takes, a5 is okay. This one should be okay for black, I think. Nothing very much happening. So they played these moves. Nakamura, well, bishop c3 was actually wrong. Queen e7, I mean, I guess people have seen this. You can't take with the rook because you just lose to this. Minus plus, I'm not going to even give the variation. Equals minus plus. So you have to take with the queen, bishop to there, rook to there, and then the very clever computer move bishop e1, messing up white's pawn structure. And this apparently is okay. That's not an easy move to see at all, I have to say. I could easily miss that move. In fact, I'd be surprised if I saw it. Apparently you go here now. And this is given as about equal by the engine. So bishop c3 was wrong. Rook f2 is clever. Rook takes. If king takes, you end up with some perpetual check. You end up with a repetition anyway. And, this actually is good for white. king g2 makes sense, so black doesn't have a tempo with queen b6 check. And here he should have gone, I mean, it's not at all obvious. Perhaps it's obvious you want to end up with rook and d7 and queen and d5, so rook and f1. Rook f1 makes sense. Rook d7 doesn't make that much sense to me, even if it's the best move. Rook d7 given, actually, by this. Yeah, basically you swap these guys and put your queen in the middle, and it's unpleasant for black. Pretty good winning chances for white with that very powerful a-pawn. I mean, you know, the game continues, obviously, but I think you can go rook f1 as well, actually, is a perfectly good move as well. Just do it this way around as well. I'm not sure if that... Let me just check with the engine. Yeah, queen b7. Rook take. Let's just play some sensible moves. Take, take. King h3 doesn't particularly work. King h3 and queen f5 even it quite likes, actually. I mean, queen f3 is the normal move, I think. Queen e7. Now probably a4. Not playing a4 yet? Okay. Why is a4 not a good idea now? Well, okay, you think you don't want to allow g6, so you go queen d3. Okay. I mean, all this... you can... In a game, you just have a feeling. Rook to there is so sensible. But the problem is... Now, if you allow rook d7, you're much better, but queen e7... Preventing rook d... Sorry, I have to write this down, don't I? Because I don't have this. Preventing rook d7 for the moment. And that's important. And that's actually very important. I think I did do this with somebody else. Rook a8 was a good move, and now black's active enough. He won a pawn, but it's not a big pawn, and they agreed to draw on here. So, sorry, Control S. So the thing about this game, Nakamura decided that for the first round he wanted to engage in damage limitation. Caruana had had ages to prepare something really unpleasant for him, and he thought, I don't want to be involved in that. Let's just play some sensible moves. I know I'll probably be a little bit worse, but I should hold. In fact, it got a little bit out of control, but he held. He did hold, and it made sense to me. The other two games are both just about opening preparation, really. There's this Vedit game. Okay, they play these moves. So he starts with Berlin. Nakamura avoids the endings and the main lines with d3. This is a new move. And it's you can take the bishop and take on d6, of course, and it's playable but not that wonderful. In fact, I gave some lines. I mean, okay, so he went back after thinking the lines. It's sort of okay for black, and now he thought a while and took the pawn. I have to say I was streaming this and I didn't see the bishop h3 and queen b8 because the queen can't go to b8 till the bishop moves, of course. So eventually Nakamura took it. This is the point. I assume he'd seen this, I don't know. Went knight c4. If pawn takes queen b8, bishop f4, it's glam. You can see that if you start playing knight f3 and queen h3 check, it's going to be at least... Excuse me, what's happening here, here and here? I mean, say you went here. Check. Here. Check. Here. Probably rook d8 is just winning, isn't it? This must be absolutely dire for white. I don't know if you can do better than that, but that will do. So he went knight c4, and I was streaming, and I thought that maybe you could play queen c7, but then e5's a good move, and this actually refutes it. So he went bishop g4, queen c2, bishop c7. So we got to this position, and it's hard to assess, isn't it? I mean, white's got an extra centre pawn, but he is missing this h2 pawn, which makes his king fairly vulnerable, and he hasn't got good development. So I wouldn't find it easy to tell what's going on, but actually the engine just says it's better for black. I think I'd be nervous as white, but not sure I was that much worse. And there, b5. Actually, f5 has given us even better, which is a bit extraordinary. Bishop b2. I don't know if bishop b2 is much of a move. Maybe there's something better you can do. Don't know. Can you play bishop b4? I haven't. I mean, I'm not that interested at this stage. You know, there's knight takes g4, knight takes g4, g3, f5. There we are. I've got this line, which ends. It ends better for black, but nothing terrible. It's at least equals plus, maybe line over plus. So you went bishop b2, f5 is a fine move, saying I'm going to hit you. And here Nakamura played f4. And you have to say, when he did this, he must have known bishop b6 was a dangerous reply. And just, I assume he did, because it's just completely the obvious move. Pinning that knight and taking aim at all the pieces. And Nakamura found a very clever move now. He found king f2. I mean, c4 actually is... Thought 20 minutes. c4 is also interesting. Take, and the engine just wants to do this. Just get the pieces out. It says, well, are you happy, comrade? I think you can also take, actually. You can go rook h3, king over, queen takes pawn, king f8. That's also good, in fact. But whether you want to do it is another matter. I suppose, why not? Rook e4, and it's given as winning for black, which is not a surprise. And also went king f2, which is clever because it gets the rook to the file with tempo, and you take the knight. But after queen g5, just look at the position. Without really thinking about it, just look and think, is this going to be playable for white? It's fairly obvious it's not, I think. I mean, you're just being attacked by too many lumps. He went, if queen d3, knight f4, queen d2, you can just play bishop takes e2. Oh, no, you can play f4, sorry. And if queen d3, you can go takes. Now he has to take back with the queen and then f4. Can't take with the king, of course, because of the knight fork. And obviously you've got a winning attack, clearly. So, he went king e1. Bishop b3. Actually, knight e3 is apparently better, but why would you bother? This is so simple. If knight d2, knight c4, rook d1, rook takes, rook d8, resigns. So he went there, knight f1, and he resigned. Because after king there to there, any sensible move takes, rook e8. Black is, the exchange up is about to win the e-pawn, and white's king is in a mess. And a4, rook takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, rook e2 checks certainly doesn't help at all. So, very good game by Vidit. When I thought, well, maybe he's going to improve his chance. He's playing really well. And then he got done over by Prague. Fantastic second round, wasn't it, with all these decisive games. This was also a novelty. Here, so I don't know much about e4, e5 openings, but I know I've read that the Speelman is sort of playable and the deferred Speelman is absolutely asking for it. Don't ask me why. But that's what the boys say. But Prague had prepared this with his boys. Prague is with Peter Svidler, isn't he? Which is definitely a good thing to be with. I think we said that, didn't we? And this is what you're supposed to do, but it's not as good as you might think. but knight f5 apparently is not the best move. Knight c3 they want to do, because he loses time, and then this excellent move d6, giving the king some space. If you go g6 castles is pretty annoying because you can't take it yet. So you need to get in d6 first. And here after d6 he started, sorry I was staring for the key. Now if you castle you can play ed6, queen d7 is apparently okay. Queen e2, check, king f7 doesn't really help. You just get your pieces out. And you got good development. I mean, the thing is, this bishop is a monster on b7. And so, it's all a bit 19th century, really, isn't it? It's all a bit surprising, but apparently this is okay. Queen e2 wasn't a great move. I don't know if you can take. Well, the thing is, if you take, then after king f7, presumably, I'm going to ask the engine, because it's not my sort of position. I don't understand this crap, really. It's rather wonderful crap, but if you go takes, king f7, knight e3, bishop d6. And black's got enough for a pawn, really. He's just going to get his pieces out. That bishop is worth a pawn. That's what the great engine is saying. Queen e2, e6 is a bit... trying a little bit hard, I think. So what is his idea? So if queen takes g2, 2 question marks. As I said, I didn't see this live because I was in Hove. Check, check, and checkmate. So I've noticed that now. But amazingly, he discovered this. h6 back, knight e7. And black, okay, it's 7 plays 6, but there's this great bishop. I mean, I thought it might have been, when I saw the game first, I thought it might have been, what's it called, a Norwegian variation, e4, e5, knight, knight, bishop b5, a6. Bishop a4, b5, bishop b3, bishop b7, it looked a bit like to me. Anyway, so they play some moves. Getting the pieces out. And here apparently castles is the right one. He went long. And here knight d5 would have been better. Probably we want to... Actually, we want a diagram here, don't we? So that was, I mean, the thing is that in practice, this is a position which is, okay, you don't take with the queen because then knight c4 wins a piece. Well, it's not very unpleasant. So they played some moves, and it's just better for black and really hard for white to play and dispiriting for white. I think was he right to do rook g8? He was. Rook h7 actually. So it says rook h7, stockfish. What's the idea of that? Of queen g6? You just play bishop takes bishop and something awful. No, you just go rook takes h takes e7, of course. Okay. So it's giving knight takes g6 as a try. Oh heavens! It's going knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Sorry, you can see my glorious typing, but I could turn on the light. It would be beyond us humans most of the time. I mean, yeah, you could see it. Excuse my brilliant typing. That's precisely why I use the dictation software. Right, okay, so they played some moves. And he even let the bishop come off. He just played chess, and it was... And he's a pawn up with a big advantage. And he just forced the rooks off. So, very easy win now. You just exchange rooks and g5 and swap the a pawn for the b pawn and then queen your pawns. So these two games, the two games I was showing you, which you've probably seen, almost certainly seen before, my take is that both of them involved magnificent opening preparation by black, and that these guys are really finding all sorts of interesting things with the help of their human and silicon assistants, and that it should be a wonderful tournament. So by the time I get back to you in a month's time, this will have finished. I hope that we all have tremendous fun watching the candidates, and see you in a month's time. And yes, I am